What's up, everybody? Good morning. Happy Saturday. A lot of fun college football today. A lot of fun professional football tomorrow. Big reason why it'll be fun is that none of it involves the Seahawks playing because there's nothing fun about that right now. But before we get into all that, I want to talk for a little bit here about scapegoats. I want to talk a little bit about Seattle Seahawk scapegoats, fall guys, however, whatever phrase you want to use to describe somebody who takes the blame for a big failure. Because Seahawks fans right now don't agree on all that much. Some people are sick of Pete, some people aren't. Some people are sick of Geno, some people aren't. Some people are done with this or that or the other thing. Other people are good with those things. Seahawks fans don't agree on a lot right now, but if there's one thing that there's pretty pretty close to a unified voice on from the fan base, it's that Shane Waldron is a problem right now and he needs to go, and we need a new offensive coordinator next season. Some people even want him gone this season. Now, I don't know who we have who we would promote into that position for the rest of the year, but either way, most people are pretty much done with Shane Waldron. And I don't think this one's getting quite as much attention, but I do think there's also a good amount of a unified voice around Clint Hurtt also being a guy who needs to go. Now, I don't think the anger is there with Clint Hurtt the way it is with Waldron because the defense wasn't expected to be great this year, but the defense is bad again, just like it was last year. Minor improvement at best. So I think these two guys, there is relative consensus that something needs to be done with these two. And they're going to be the guys who go in the off season, and with their replacements that we bring in, that's going to fix things. That's going to be the narrative. And I think this is probably going to happen. And I'm not against it because neither guy's performing particularly well. Neither guy's really doing a good job this year. But I want to talk about the act of scapegoating in Seattle over the last, I don't know, 6 years. And I want to really ask people out there who are making those two guys the headline if you really think that's smart. So, Pete Carroll got here in 2010. Took over a really bad team. Those first 2 years, team wasn't any good, but he had a lot of work to do. And then in 2012, he gets the team on track. Guys like Wilson, guys like Wagner help bring it all together as rookies. We start getting really good contributions out of guys like Sherman, Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas. Like the team comes together, and basically they perform well for the next several years, all the way until 2017. The Seahawks, more or less, had a successful season every year from 2012 to 2016. And then in 2017, finally, things went off the rails. That team missed the playoffs. That team had several embarrassing games that year. That team disappointed significantly. And it was time for somebody to pay. And I remember people saying at the time that Pete Carroll actually strongly considered retiring after the 2017 season. He didn't. And instead, in order to address the failure, in order to hold some accountability on these players, these coaches, on some level, to say, look, this guy got punished. We got rid of three guys. We purged most of the coaching staff. Darrell Bevell out after 2017, right? Chris Richard out after 2017. And of course, I cannot ignore this one, Tom Cable out after 2017. Now, here's the thing with scapegoating. When you're talking about pushing a guy out because of the failures of the group, sometimes the guy deserves to get pushed out. Tom Cable 110% deserved to get pushed out. Now, I think Darrell Bevell was actually pretty good. I think he was a pretty good offensive coordinator, but it was probably time for us to do something different because he had been there for a while and maybe things were getting a little bit stale. It was starting to spoil a little bit. And it wasn't really so much an indictment of Bevell. It was more of a, we want to keep things fresh. We want to try to go in a different direction. So I don't think we were wrong to let go of Bevell. And Chris Richard, I mean, eh, I don't know. I didn't think Chris Richard was all that bad, but if everybody else was going, he may as well go too, I guess. So those three guys go, and I'm not saying, like, this is the important thing here. I'm not saying that any of these guys were wrongly pushed out, but they were made scapegoats for the failure of that team. You push forward a little bit, you have two pretty good seasons. 2018 goes well, 2019 goes fairly well, 2020 starts out great, and then it fizzles out, and there's no climax, right? Like you're building up. 2018, you've got a good team. 2019, you got a really good team. 2020, it looks like you've got the great team that is actually going to go on the run to justify all this. And then they get to the playoffs and fizzle out, and it's time for another scapegoat. And this year it was Brian Schottenheimer. Brian Schottenheimer got pushed out after 2020, basically being held responsible for the offense fizzling out at the end of the season in the playoffs, especially the way that it did. Now, was that reasonable? Was that fair? Maybe. I mean, honestly, if you look at Schottenheimer's 3 years in Seattle, the offense was good all 3 of those years. Now, granted, it did weaken significantly in that final part of that third year, and there was a bad trend being established, but he produced consistently good results across those 3 seasons. Now, I had no problem with him going, and I don't think very many Seahawks fans did. It's not like he was great. There were some real problems with the Schottenheimer era. And again, I'm not saying he didn't deserve to get pushed out, but what you have here is a team failing, a team disappointing, and they decide, all right, Brian Schottenheimer, it's your turn to fall on the guillotine for that one. You're falling on the axe for this team's failure. And then we get to two seasons ago. The season after Schottenheimer leaves, things get worse. The team falls on their face. They go 7-10. They start 5-10, by the way. 2 of those wins were garbage time. And now it's time for more scapegoats. And there were 2 of them in this offseason. The first was Ken Norton Jr. He got fired shortly after the season ended. And then, of course, Russell Wilson. That's right, a player can be a scapegoat too. Now, again, I really want to stress this. Ken Norton was not anything special. I got no problem with firing him. Ken Norton, not a very good defensive coordinator. I'm not saying that we were wrong to push him out. And Russell Wilson, his game was diminishing, and what he did last year in Denver did show that he was no longer that hyper elite franchise guy that can just carry you no matter what. So we were right to trade Russell Wilson too. But that doesn't change the fact that they're getting scapegoated for the failures of the group. And these are the guys who get pushed out so that Pete Carroll can continue to keep his job and avoid taking any responsibility. So I look at where this is going with Waldron, with Hurt. I don't think either guy's going to be here next year. I really don't think Waldron will be, and I seriously doubt Hurt will be either, although that's slightly more likely. But while I do think that letting those 2 guys go is going to make the fans temporarily feel good, like, oh, we might get somebody better. We might get somebody who can do a better job. We might get somebody who's actually able to fix this stuff. I just really want you guys to think about the fact that this team has had, in some capacity, 6 different scapegoats in the last 6 years, on and off, depending on whether or not the most recent season was good or bad. And now we're just going to have 2 more. And at what point do we have to say, you know what, Carroll, you're the guy who hires all these people. You're the one who keeps them around as long as you do. You're the one who tries to give these guys power or takes the power away from them in some cases and takes it all for yourself and then uses them as your patsy when things go wrong. I absolutely think that's what's happening right now with Waldron. You cannot tell me this is Waldron's offense the way he wants to run it. So before I mean, when Waldron gets fired this offseason, which I do suspect will happen, you're going to be excited. You're going to be happy. You're going to be like, okay, cool. We can go get somebody else who's different, who's better. Just remember, it's still going to be Pete Carroll hiring him. And Pete Carroll has shown a tremendous, tremendous ability to get people to blame everybody but him for the team's shortcomings. So maybe think about not falling for it anymore. Just something to consider as we go into this off season, because this is a lot of scapegoats in a not very long period of time. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. More videos coming later. I just wanted to go ahead and give you guys something to think about before college football kicks off in a little bit here. See you guys for the Apple Cup. Maybe another video later, but scapegoats. It's a thing.